Mr. Mayor, honoured guests, ladies and gentlemen, I've got a confession to make. This is only my second visit to Blackburn Rovers. My first visit was in 1964 when I was dragged here, obviously the old ground, by my mother, who was a rabid Blackburn Rovers supporter. After this event, I'm going over to lay flowers on her ashes, which are deposited in the memorial garden just over there. I hope, Mum, you're looking down on me because this is an event she would have loved to have been at. The Army, the military, the Navy, what do we do? Why do we have this yearning to keep coming together? Why do we have this yearning to try and explain to a non-military audience what it is we do? Well, the military take their strength and their people from society. It's not an abstract organisation that just appears and then disappears. Our strength is taken from the society and the towns and the cities and the communities from which we recruit. And the various regiments and ships and aircraft squadrons reflect the character of those locations. And I was indeed fortunate to be commanding officer of the Queen's Lancashire Regiment. And that fine regiment reflected the county of Lancashire. And that was the thing that bound us together. So it's not surprising that having built them up into a frenzy of loyalty to a cap badge and a county, we can't just expect them to switch off on retirement. The military, if you've not served in the military, is undoubtedly the greatest meritocracy that Britain produces. It doesn't care what your background is. It doesn't care about the problems you had before. If you perform and are loyal and serve, that loyalty will be reciprocated in full. And what do I mean by being a meritocracy? Well, there is a perception out there that every officer came from Downton Abbey and was born with a silver spoon in their mouth. One or two, perhaps, in the Guards division, may have had those origins. But I'm from Darwin. I was born in Willow Street. I left school with 2 O-levels, joined the army at 16, and the army decided I was far too dangerous in the ranks, so I was commissioned at 18, and I was fortunately commissioned into the Queen's Lancashire Regiment. The point I'm making is that there are no preconceived ideas about who you are and where you're from and which peg hole you should go into. And for me personally, joining the army was the greatest thing that ever happened to me, period. If I hadn't joined the army, I could have seen my life taking a very different route indeed. And here today, I'm surrounded by many people I've served with, and you have no idea what an absolutely wonderful glow that gives you right here to see your old mates again. Sadly, there's no beer involved because the conversation would get even better if we had plenty of beer. So turning to today's event, the Veterans Living History Museum and Blackburn Rovers have come together with many other organisations to produce a model which seems to be proliferating across the United Kingdom. What is very interesting is that in the 60s and 70s, there was a period in society where the military were just forgotten about and ignored. And one would have thought that with all the wars that have gone on since, that somehow society would actually turn against the military even more. But the reverse happened. The reverse happened. And that's because the British people can separate the politics of war from the reality of the experience of those who actually have to fight wars. And we're very good at that. It doesn't matter if you're Labour, Conservative, Liberal, or whatever. The fact of the matter is, soldiers are sent on military operations. They have no choice. If we had a choice, that would result in anarchy. So we go, we do our duty, and on many occasions, people come back with scars, physical or otherwise. Society, though, wants to play a part in bringing veterans back into the fold. And this event today and this facility is in microcosm representative of what is happening right across the United Kingdom. And we, those veterans and others here today, are mightily thankful that the communities from which we draw our strength want to reflect and show their appreciation for what we do. I'm heavily involved with museums now in a professional capacity, and about a year ago I became aware of the Veterans Living History Museum. Wasn't aware too much about what it was and what it did, but rang up Wayne and went on a private visit. Probably broke all the COVID rules, but I didn't catch anything. And I was utterly, utterly amazed. The museum world is governed by a significant amount of formality and rules and regulations. But what these guys did, and I take my hat off to them, you know, a group of ex-Queen's Lancashire soldiers have come together and come up with an initiative that is spectacularly impressive. Don't imagine a museum to be bricks and mortar. You need bricks and mortar, you need a firm base. But take the story to the people, and it's working supremely well. I'm a member of the Army Museums Ogilvy Trust, an unusual title, but that is the governing body that oversees all Army museums. And having visited the Living History Museum, I then gave a briefing to my fellow London-based trustees, and mightily impressed they were too. So impressed that there is a feature coming into the annual report of AMOT on this very concept. So, gentlemen, that's you've reached the attention of those in Whitehall very quickly, and for all the right reasons. The key thing about the military is that the need for society to recognise that it has to be different. The military don't want sympathy. That is the last thing we want. We don't want sympathy. We don't want people in the street thinking, oh, he had to go to war, she had to go to war. That's what we signed up to. When we signed that blank cheque at the Careers Office, which we gave to the Queen, and occasionally the Queen cashed it in with our lives, we don't want sympathy. We made that choice. We knew what the deal was, and yes, many of us want to go on operations because that represents the culmination of the professionalism of what you've been doing. What we do demand and request is understanding. And that understanding is based on the need for the forces to be allowed to be different. And I'm going to go slightly political here. I hear too often the call that we have to reflect every element of society. I'm afraid if that was the case, we would lose every war. 99% of society will not die for their Queen and country. We don't want 99% of that statistic in the military. That's a very glib response to a complex question. But we want understanding. And an army can only fight if it is allowed to be different. We cannot apply the mores and the conventions of every strand of society and expect to be able to do what the Queen and the taxpayer expects us to do, which is to win operations on their behalf. So, ladies and gentlemen, with that slightly political ending, but I think a serious point, can I thank you both as a senior colonel within the Duke of Lancaster's Regiment, formerly the Queen's Lancashire Regiment, and for many veterans who are going to be using this amazing facility and this fantastic initiative, and of course for both Blackburn Rovers and the town's interest in what is going on in supporting veterans per se. Many, many thanks indeed. It's been an absolute delight to be here. And Mum, if you're watching, yes, I'm in Blackburn Rovers. Thank you.